Hello and welcome to the HNS 111A Human Anatomy 1. Um, this was the sample paper for the 2024, right? This was the period between September to December 2024, right? So let's get right into it. Question 1, anatomical position. In anatomical position, the subject is standing. Right, in anatomical position, the hands are usually in a supinated position, right? If the head circumference at birth is 34 centimeters, at 1 year it will typically be, right? In human development, we normally approximate 1 centimeter, 1 month, 1 centimeter. So that's an average of 12 centimeters added to 34 centimeters, giving us 46 centimeters. The umbilical cord is derived from, the umbilical cord is primarily derived from both the allantois and the chorion. The endoderm differentiates to form endo. The endo differentiates to form the respiratory system. Remember, the cardiovascular system is derived from the mesoderm, the peripheral nervous system from the ectoderm, and the connective tissue majorly from the mesoderm. A chromosomal abnormality syndrome characterized by the presence of an extra X chromosome in males, resulting in a karyotype of XXY is, this description is for the Klinefelter syndrome. Remember, it normally occurs in males who have extra X chromosome, giving it a karyotype of XXY, and this leads to, or individuals with this formulation will present with symptoms such as infertility, learning disabilities, and physical differences. Down syndrome, on the other hand, is caused by trisomy 21, where there are 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of 2, giving it 47 instead of 46 chromosomes. Cry-to-touch syndrome is where a portion of one chromosome 5 being missing, that will be missing, while the other 5 will be normal. Turner syndrome, on the other hand, occurs in females who have only one X chromosome, giving it a karyotype of the X0, and that makes someone to have 45 instead of the normal 46 chromosomes. When differentiating between males and females using bar bodies, females are characterized by, yes, females always have a single small dark-stained bar body present in their nuclei, which is different from the males. Which of the following methods is based on collecting fetal cells for diagnostic purposes? Chorionic villus sampling is the one that should be used in that process as opposed to the other procedures. Which of the following parts of the blastocyst combine to form amniotic cavity? Amniotic cavity is formed by the cytotrophoblast, which is the innermost layer of the trophoblast, and the epiblast of the embryoblast. Kidneys originates from which primary germ layer? Right, kidneys majorly from the mesoderm along with muscles, bones, and the circulatory system, right? As we all know, endoderm is majorly involved in the formation of the foregut, midgut, and hindgut, while the ectoderm majorly gives rise to the skin, the nervous system, and sensory organs. Which of the following layers of the epidermis will contain the macular cells? Where the macular cells will be found primarily in the stratum javinatum, which is the deepest layer of the epidermis, and is normally associated with sensory nerve endings. Remember, stratum cornea is the outermost layer and is majorly made up of dead keratinized cells. Stratum lucidum will be found only in thick skin, such as the palms, the soles, and majorly consists of a few layers of clear cells, while stratum granulosum is where keratin begins, production begins, and cells begin to die from that level. The dust is wholly inherited from the mother. Well, as you know, the mitochondria is the sole organelle that is wholly inherited from the mother. So a mother will have all her offspring with the same mitochondria. Which of the following type of cartilage is the most flexible? Well, out of the three types of cartilages, you find that elastic is the most flexible one and is found in structures like the external ear, that's the auricle, the epiglottis, and the eustachian tube. Fibrous cartilage is found in the areas that require high tensile strength, such as the intervertebral discs, pubic symphysis, and the knee menisci. Hyaline cartilage covers the ends of bones and in synovial joints, providing a smooth surface for movement and reducing friction between bones. Which of the following is the structural and the functional unit of a bone? Well, out of what you've mentioned, osteon is normally the functional unit of bone. The nephron is for the kidney. During which phase do the individual chromosomes separate and move to opposite poles? Well, anaphase is that stage where sister chromatids separate and are pulled towards opposite poles of the cell. This occurs after the chromosomes have already aligned in the metaphase. Metaphase is where individual chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell along the imaginary plate, normally referred to as the epiphyseal or the metaphyseal plate. Prophase is where chromosomes condense and become visible, and at the end of the process, the nuclear envelope normally breaks down. Spindle fibers start to form, but chromosomes are yet to be aligned in the middle, right? Aligning in the middle happens at the metaphase. Telophase now is this where separated chromatids now are going to reach the opposite poles of the cell, and the nuclear envelope reforms around each of these chromosomes. Glands that secrete substances by expelling a portion of their cytoplasms along with the secretions are referred to as, if you look at the four options, apocrine glands, they normally release a portion of the cell's cytoplasm as the apical part of the cell pinches off. This process involves some loss of cellular material. Remember, merocrine glands secrete substances without any actual loss of cellular materials, while holocrine glands release their secretions by rupturing and disrupting the entire cell. Maintenance of the extracellular matrix is the function of fibroblasts are responsible for producing extracellular matrix components like collagen, elastin, and this contributes to tissue repair and structural integrity. Fat cells, these are also the adipocytes, they store energy in form of lipids, while plasma cells derived from B lymphocytes are specialized for synthesizing and secreting antibodies as part of the adaptive immune system. Histiocytes, these are tissue-resident macrophages which are majorly involved in phagocytosis and immune surveillance. In which of these locations will simple columnar epithelium with microvilli be found? Well, this one will majorly be found in the small intestines. As you know, the microvilli are very essential for absorption, along with the goblet cells for mucus secretions, but they don't have any cilia. For the blood vessels, we normally have simple squamous epithelium. And then for the nasal cavity and trachea, we will have pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium, while the lining of the serous membrane all will have the simple squamous epithelium. The volume of amniotic fluid after 20 weeks of gestation that will suggest polyhydramnios is, remember the normal one should be at least 500 to 1000, but when it exceeds that, like for example, say 1500 to 2000 mils, this might suggest polyhydramnios, and this means excessive amniotic fluid. Which type of white blood cells are primarily involved in combating parasitic infections and modulating allergic reactions, particularly through the release of inflammatory mediators? Well, we have the eosinophils, which are important in managing inflammation and combating parasitic infections. Basophils, as we know, along with mast cells, are responsible for the release of histamine during allergic and anaphylactic reactions, while lymphocytes will help in recognition and mounting a targeted immune response. Lastly, neutrophils are they have their major role is to attack the pathogens directly. That is facilitating the process of phagocytosis. Thus, is the stage where the growth of the trophoblast is much quicker than the bilaminar embryonic disc. Well, if you try to compare those dates, you find that at day 8, the blastocyst has just burrowed into the endometrium, and blastocyst is completely embedded by day 9. By day 10, this is where the growth of the trophoblast is much quicker than the embryoblast. But at day 11, we are having leucani, or the airspace, the spaces beginning to form in the syncytial trophoblast as it continues to expand. Indicate these statements whether true or false. The area between the embryo and the stratum basalis is known as the decidua basalis, and the area between the embryo and the uterine cavity is the decidua capsularis. Well, if you look at those statements, all of them are true. Remember, the decidua basalis is the part of the endometrium that is in contact with the embryo and the stratum basalis, where the maternal portion of the placenta develops, while the decidua capsularis is the part of the endometrium that surrounds the embryo and faces the uterine cavity. It eventually gets stretched as the pregnancy progresses, while the decidia parietalis is the remaining part of the endometrium that is not directly involved with the embryo or the placenta. It normally lines the rest of the uterine cavity and is involved in the process of decidual shedding after childbirth. The period between successive cell division is termed as interphase. Remember, we have G1, where we have cell growth, followed by S phase, where we have DNA replication, and then lastly the G2 phase, where there is final preparation for mitosis. In animal cells, the pair of centers are found in the, when looking at those parts of a cell, cytoplasm will be the answer. You find that centers will be located in the cytoplasm of animal cells near the nucleus within the structure that's referred as the centriosome. They play a critical role in organizing microtubules and forming the mitotic spindle during cell division. During cell division, the nucleus disappears and the nuclear membrane dissolves at the end of, well, we have indicated this one happens during the prophase, where chromatins condense into visible chromosomes, and then the nucleolus will disappear. The nuclear membrane begins to break down, allowing the spindle fibers to access the chromosomes. Apart from the nucleus and the cytoplasm, you need to mention the other fundamental organelle to the cell. Well, fundamental parts of a cell can also be viewed under a light microscope and not necessarily the electron microscope. So looking at the options that you have, we could talk of the cell membrane, that is the plasma lemma, also known as the cell membrane. This one surrounds the cytoplasm and provides a barrier that regulates the entry and exit of substances, maintaining homeostasis. Cells of the body are organized into 4 fundamental tissues. These are namely as epithelial, connective, muscle, and nerve. A display of pairs of homologous chromosomes of the same appearance is referred to as the decitoc. Remember, this is a display or an arrangement of an individual paired homologous chromosomes, typically organized by size, shape, and number, as seen under a microscope during the metaphase stage. The major cause of most chromosomal abnormalities is what? Non-disjunction, guys. Failure of homologous chromosomes or sister chromatids to separate properly during meiosis. That could be anaphase 1 or 2. And this could lead to gametes with an abnormal number of chromosomes, causing aneuploidy conditions like the trisomy 21, that's the Down syndrome, the monosomy, which you refer to as the Turner syndrome, or the trisomy 18, which is the Edward syndrome. Interaction of cell network is done by the paracrine factor signaling molecules, which are secreted by one cell and then influence the behavior or the fate of nearby cells. Functions of the body are normally conducted by organs, guys. We have different organs like blood circulation by the heart, the liver, metabolism, and other functions, the kidney, filtration, and any other functions. So functions are carried by organs. When new strands of DNA are synthesized with its bases inserted by mistake into a gene, this is likely to result in a change in the DNA sequence, which can occur when a mistake is made during DNA replication, and that is a mutation. The full component of chromosome is known as the diploid. It refers to full complement of chromosomes in a somatic cell. This includes two sets of chromosomes, one set from each parent. In humans, the diploid number is usually 46, or we could be talking of 23 pairs of chromosomes. Genes are carried on chromosomes, guys. These are simply segments of DNA that carry the instructions for building and maintaining an organism. Blood is an example of a connective tissue because it has a matrix, that is the plasma, that surrounds the cellular components. Which of the following anatomical plane divides the body into left and right halves? Left and right halves, that is the sagittal plane. It divides the body into left and right portions if the division is exactly in the middle, and this creates equal halves. It is called the mid-sagittal plane. The term proximal in anatomy refers to proximal, nearest to the point of attachment. Remember, when you're talking about farthest from the midline of the body, this one we are talking of distal or lateral, depending on the context. If you're talking about in the middle of the body, this could refer to the medial or the central position. And lastly, if you're talking about farthest from the head, this could be referred to as caudal or inferior, again depending on the anatomical position. What term describes a body or part that is closer to the feet or situated below another, right? Below another, we talk of inferior, right? A body part that is closer to the feet or situated below another one. The term anterior is often used interchangeably with which other term in anatomy. Anterior ventral, right? First, the front of the body. The term ventral is used interchangeably with anterior in humans, as it also refers to the front or the belly side of the stomach. Remember, dorsal is the back, medial closer to the middle, while lateral farther from the midline. What are the main types of cell junctions found in animal cells? Well, guys, here you just need to rule out the ones that are found in plants, and I think that will have given you an easier time. Like plasmodesmata, I think we had already indicated that these one are found in plant cells and not animal cells. So you can see again it's found in all the choices, and that does makes all those choices wrong. So we have the tight junctions, gap junction, and adherent junctions. Which type of cell junction forms a barrier to prevent leakage of extracellular fluid between adjacent cells? Between adjacent cells, those are tight junctions. They form a seal between adjacent cells, preventing leakage of extracellular fluid between them. Which cell junctions arouse for the direct exchange of ions, small molecules, and signaling molecules between neighboring cells? Here we are going to talk of gap junctions. These are specifically responsible for the direct exchange of small molecules and ions between cells. In which type of tissue would you expect to find a high concentration of tight junctions? Tight junctions, guys, would be found in the intestines. Remember, they'll be regulating the movement of substances between cells and maintaining the barrier functions of the intestinal lining and ensuring selective absorption and protection against pathogens. Where is simple squamous epithelium found in the body? Simple. Simple should facilitate diffusion, guys. If you look at the options, I think alveoli in the lungs, it will be very essential because this type of epithelium is going to facilitate gas exchange due to its thin and permeable structure. It can also be found in blood vessels where they line blood vessels and lymphatic vessels for efficient diffusion and filtration. Also in the glomeruli of the kidneys, as this will help allow filtration of blood to form urine. Which type of epithelial tissue lines the urinary bladder and allows it to stretch? Alright guys, transitional epithelium is found in the urinary bladder, ureters, and part of the urethra, and this normally helps allow stretching, keeps on changing shape. What is the most abundant protein in the connective tissue, like tendons and ligaments? Where the most abundant protein is the collagen. This normally provides strength, structure, and support due to its high tensile strength. Remember, elastin is found in tissues requiring elasticity, while keratin is found in epithelial cells of the skin, hair, and nails. Hemoglobin, this is a protein in red blood cells responsible for oxygen transport, and it's not related to the connective tissue. Which type of epithelial tissue is found in the lining of the respiratory tract and contains cilia? Pseudostratified columnar will be found here, and this is what will be noted in this part of the body. Simple squamous will be found in areas where diffusion is necessary. Simple columnar is found in areas where gastrointestinal tract, like the gastrointestinal tract, and not typically associated with the cilia. Stratified squamous is found in areas of high friction, such as the skin and the esophagus, and not the respiratory tract. Smooth muscle is found in which of the following? Smooth muscles will be found in the lining of hollow organs like the intestine and the uterus. Remember, smooth muscles are involuntary, non-striated. Examples, they could be found in the intestines, the uterus, blood vessels, and the bladder. Which of the following cavities are separated by the diaphragm? Diaphragm separates the thoracic and the abdominal cavities. So during inspiration, the diaphragm will contract and flatten, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity and allowing air to enter the lungs. Which of the following terms describes the motion of bending the forearm towards the body? That is flexing, right? That is flexion. Which of the following connects the sternum to the ribs? We have the hyaline cartilage. The abdominal cavity contains the spleen and the stomach. The main components of the skeletal system are skeletal system consists of the bone, the cartilage, joints, and ligaments. Bone is an example of. Bone is still a connective tissue. Also blood that we had already mentioned before. Your following statements on the muscles is true. True statement is the smooth muscles are involuntary in nature, right? It is a thread-like structure that extends from one end of the muscle fiber to another. That one we are referring to as the myofibril. Blood flow, right? Blood flow or blood from the heart flows through the blood vessels in which order from the heart. Heart we have the arteries, then it goes to the arterioles, capillaries, venules, and then veins take back blood to the heart. A plane that divides the body into anterior and posterior portions, and this will be the coronal plane, which is also referred to as the frontal plane. This one is the one that divides the body into anterior and posterior part and runs vertically from side to side. The sequence in which impulses are transmitted in a simple reflex arc, right? Remember we have arc here, it's an arc, right? Not arc. You have the sensory nerve ending, posterior root ganglion, connector neuron, and the mixed neuron. Then we have now the motor nerve ending. In a simple reflex arc, we have the sensory nerve ending, posterior root ganglion, connector neuron, mixed, and then finally the motor nerve ending. Substances that create colloidal osmotic pressure in capillaries include. Colloidal is also referred to as the oncotic pressure, right? The oncotic pressure is the pressure exerted by large proteins in blood plasma that draws water into the capillaries. And this includes albumin and globulin. The optic chiasma is a crossing of some optic nerves in the cranial cavity. The gland the gland which regulates the rate of oxygenation in all body cells is the thyroid gland, right? 61 we are requested to describe the process of spermatogenesis, right? Remember spermatogenesis occurs in the seminiferous tubules. So we have the spermatogonia. These are the stem cells of the spermatogenesis, right? They undergo mitotic division to produce more spermatogonia. Some spermatogonia are now going to differentiate into primary spermatocytes, while others remain as stem cells to ensure continuous sperm production. Spermatogonia are diploid, meaning they have two sets of chromosomes. Then now we have the mitotic phase. So we have the meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Of course, the location still remains the seminiferous tubules inside the germinal epithelium. So the primary spermatocytes, which are diploids, normally undergo meiosis 1 to form two secondary spermatocytes, which are haploid, each with half of the chromosome number. The secondary spermatocytes then undergo meiosis 2, a division similar to meiosis, to produce four spermatocytes from the two secondary spermatocytes. The four spermatids are also haploid, meaning that each will contain a single set of chromosomes. We now have the spermiogenesis. This is the differentiation. Still occurs in the seminiferous tubules. So it's a process that involves the spermatids undergoing a series of morphological changes to become mature spermatozoa. These changes include development of a tail for the motility, formation of the head with an acrosome. You know, the acrosome contains enzymes that will help the sperm to penetrate the egg by digesting a path through it. Then you have now the condensation of the nucleus to form a streamlined head, loss of excess cytoplasm to form the sperm, to make the sperm more efficient. Then the mature sperm are now fully formed and stored in the epididymis for further maturation. Outline the different types of epithelial cells. Well, we can name epithelial cells based on shape. Like we could talk of the squamous, which are flat and thin, resembling scales. We could talk of so that you could have like simple squamous, stratified squamous, and also these other ones. Could also have cuboidal, which are cubed like or square cells with a central nucleus. So we have simple cuboidal, stratified cuboidal. Then you have columnar epithelium, which are tall rectangular cells with nuclei typically located at the base. Could have examples like simple columnar epithelium, stratified columnar epithelium. Then we could have classification based on the arrangement, like the simple epithelium, simple epithelium. So this one just type of epithelium consisting of a single layer of cells, stratified and pseudo-stratified. Describe the process of fertilization. Fertilization, we talk of ovulation, sperm transport, capacitation of a sperm penetration of the egg, fusion of the sperm and the egg, completion of meiosis in the egg, zygote formation and cleavage, implantation. Right. Finally, describe the components of extracellular matrix of the connective tissue, and you are told to use examples in each case. Remember, the extracellular matrix is a network of non-living components that are found outside of a cell in the connective tissue. They play a role in providing structural and biochemical support to the surrounding cell. The extracellular matrix is composed of three major components. It includes fibers, ground substance, and cellular components. We could start with the fibers, like the collagen fibers is the first one. Collagen fibers are the most abundant type of fiber in the extracellular matrix and are composed of the protein collagen. These fibers are strong, flexible, and they normally resist any force. They provide tensile strength to connective tissue, and this helps to resist stretching and support structural integrity. Like in tendons and ligaments, we have collagen fibers normally forming a dense parallel arrangements that allows these tissues to withstand the mechanical stress of muscle contractions and joint movements. In bone tissue, collagen fibers help to give the bone flexibility and resistance to stress, preventing it from being brittle. Elastic fibers are composed of the protein elastins and are less abundant than collagen fibers. They are thin and can stretch and return to their original shape. They provide elasticity and resilience to tissues, allowing them to return to their original shape after being stretched or compressed. We have examples of elastic arteries, such as the aorta, where they contain elastic fibers that allows these blood vessels to expand and recoil with the pressure changes during the cardiac cycle, and this maintains a steady blood flow. Reticular fibers are fine and branch collagen fibers that form a delicate network. These fibers are composed of type 3 collagen and they normally form a supportive framework for organs, particularly those with many cells such as liver, lymphoid organs, and bone marrow. Examples of these, we have lymph nodes, which have a reticular fiber network that support lymphocytes as they filter lymph fluid. The second component is the ground substance, which is a gel-like material that fills the space between the cells and the fibers in the connective tissue. It consists of the ground substance consists of water, glycoaminoglycans, which are normally abbreviated as the GAGs, the proteoglycans, and the glycoproteins. Cellular components. For the cellular components, we have the fibroblasts, chondrocytes, osteocytes, adipocytes as part of the cellular components. Oh, ladies and gents, that marks the end of this anatomy review paper. Thank you.